Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video wherever you are, whatever you may be doing. Thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Today's video is going to be college football related. I figured since this past Wednesday I did the top 10 all-time college football blowouts, we would go ahead and stick with college football on this Friday and do a video that I said back in about April that I was going to do before football season got here. So I'm going to go ahead and do it today, and no, it's not talking about the Clemson-Georgia game and who's going to win that game, but I am still going to do that before the month of July is over with. But today, it's going to be my prediction of the 4 playoff teams. And as I said, stick around. I'm still going to talk about the Clemson-Georgia game and who I'm going to pick to win that game coming up sometime before the month of July is over with. But today, I'm going to pick my 4 playoff teams. And there may be a surprise in here because there's a team that a lot of people probably are going to have, if not everybody, is going to have them in the playoffs, but I do not have them in my playoff. My 4 playoff teams, my personal prediction, and if you want to write this down, go right ahead because I probably won't remember it. I may, but I probably won't. My 4 playoff teams, out of the ACC, I'm going with Clemson. Out of the Big Ten, Ohio State. Out of the Big 12, Oklahoma. And out of the SEC, I've got Georgia. Yes, Clemson and Georgia, in my opinion, are both going to make the playoffs. I don't think it matters who wins that game. And stick around. Coming up in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to tell you who I'm picking to win that game. But if you look at both teams' schedules, after Georgia, Clemson's 2 toughest games are going to be NC State and Boston College. Those are both going to be really good teams, but I think Clemson wins both those games. So after Georgia, Clemson's schedule is extremely easy, but if you look at Georgia's schedule after Clemson, their schedule is just as easy, if not easier. The only decent team Georgia's going to play the entire year is Florida. And if you look at Florida, last year they had all that talent on offense and still lost 4 games. And now they've lost all that talent. So I don't see Florida putting up a fight. So I think after Clemson and Georgia play each other, regardless of who wins that game, both teams are going to run the table. So if I'm right, then there's a chance we may see Clemson and Georgia in the regular season and then see Clemson and Georgia again in the playoffs. But the reason I'm picking Georgia over Alabama is because we all know that Nick Saban is a defensive-minded coach and has been his whole career. But Nick Saban himself came out before the 2020 season and said that he has realized that college football has changed and college football is no longer about defense. Now, it does not matter how good your defense is. If your offense cannot consistently put up 40 points against the big teams, you're not going to win. And I think that's obvious now because last year Alabama finished, I think, 22nd in overall defense and still won the national title. And in 2019, LSU finished like 35th in overall defense and still won the national title. And a few years back, Boston College had the number 1 defense in college football, but they went 6-6. So it is all about the offense now. Defense does not matter. You can have the best defense in the country, but when you play a top 10 team, if you don't score 40 points, you're going to get beat. So I think with Nick Saban saying that, and now you watch Alabama, if you've watched any of their spring practices and summer workouts and all that, to me, they just are not going to have the offense they've had the past few years. Everybody thought Bryce Young was going to be their quarterback, and now it looks like him and Paul Tyson are going to be having a quarterback battle, which at Alabama has not happened in a long time. A lot of people think 2018 was a quarterback battle, but really it wasn't. Jalen Hurts was the quarterback, and then in the national championship game, he struggled. He got benched. But there was no quarterback battle going into the 2018 season. So it has been many years since Alabama actually had a quarterback battle, but they've got one now. They're also not near as deep at the running back position as they usually are. And then at receiver, they've got Minchie, who is a really good receiver. But these past 3-4 years, they've had first round draft picks all over the field at wide receiver. And this year, they've got Minchie, who is good, but he's really the only experienced receiver that they have. Their offensive line is not going to be near as good. And on top of all that, I think Bill O'Brien is a joke. There's no way I would have hired Bill O'Brien. Bill O'Brien's a clown. He's not a Dan Mullen clown, but he's a clown. I'm not saying Alabama's going to be 9-3. No, I'm not saying that. But I do think this is the year Georgia finally beats them in the conference championship game. So I think by virtue of Georgia beating them in the conference championship game, I think Georgia will get in. So Bama to me is, number 6, number 7, number 8, somewhere along in there. Still really good, but I don't think they're a playoff team this year. I think Iowa State is going to be the team that just misses the playoffs. My 4 playoff teams are Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Georgia. But I think Iowa State is going to be probably 5th. They're going to be right outside the top 4 because I think Oklahoma and Iowa State are going to play each other twice. Because if you follow the Big 12, you know they're not like any other conference. They don't have divisions. They have 10 teams. They play 9 conference games, so everybody plays everybody. And then the 2 teams that have the best record play again for the conference championship game. I think Oklahoma and Iowa State play twice, and I think both teams win 1 game. So I think Iowa State is going to finish 12-1, but because of the fact they don't really have a long tradition, I mean, they haven't been any good in football in God knows how long until Matt Campbell came along. So I think if Iowa State had more of a tradition, they would have a chance. But I think since they don't, they would have to go undefeated to make the playoffs, and I don't think they will. I think they'll play Oklahoma twice, and I think both teams will win 1 game. But I think since Oklahoma has the tradition and they're top 5 every single year, I think they'll get in. If you go back last year, Oklahoma lost 2 games, I believe, before September was over with because Spencer Rattler struggled for a while. Well, they finally decided he was their quarterback, and he got better and better and better. And after those 2 losses early in the season, Oklahoma may have been the best team in college football after that. Their defense is actually getting better, which is good for Oklahoma because they never have a defense. It's still not great, but now they have the ability to hold teams to 35 points, and we know they've got the offense to where they can score at least 40 points. So I think Oklahoma will get in along with Ohio State, Clemson, and Georgia. Those are my 4 playoff teams. So like I said, if I'm right, we might see Clemson and Georgia in the regular season and then see Clemson and Georgia again in the playoffs, depending on who finishes, what seed and when they play. But we may see Clemson and Georgia twice. So hopefully we will, and hopefully both games will be tremendous. And coming up here in the next couple of weeks, I am going to tell you who I think is going to win between Clemson and Georgia. But like I said, it really doesn't matter. It's fun to talk about it. But if both teams make the playoffs, which I think they will, then in the grand scheme of things, that opening game is not going to mean nothing because we know the playoffs means a whole lot more than 1 game. So what say you? Do you agree with me? Are those the 4 playoff teams, or will Alabama get in just because they're Alabama? Because I do think Georgia will beat them in the conference championship game, but I also think somewhere along the lines during the season, Alabama's going to slip up and lose somewhere. So I think they'll finish with 2 losses, and if so, they'll still be, like I said, 6, 7, or 8. But if they do go 12-0 in the regular season and their only loss is to Georgia in the conference championship game, they may still get in just because they're Alabama. But I think they'll finish with 2 losses, mainly because I think Bill O'Brien is an absolute joke. If you look at what he did at Penn State and what he did with the Houston Texans, I have no idea why they hired that man to be their offensive coordinator. So it's going to be fun to see what he does with that talent, considering he is an absolute joke. But my 4 playoff teams, once again, are Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Georgia. Please feel free to drop in the comments section whether or not you agree with me and whether or not you hope that I'm right, just so we will see Clemson and Georgia in the regular season and have the possibility of seeing Clemson and Georgia again in the playoffs. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. If a drummer comes out of retirement, there will be repercussions. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.